So usually when we hear the word psychopaths, it conjures up images of crazed serial killers or criminal masterminds and sinister characters. But we use this word regularly to describe colleagues or clients, people we work with, live with, and people are already nodding. Yeah, and also people that we love, maybe. I know that I've rolled my eyes behind my husband's back and gone psycho. Sometimes you've probably maybe done the same thing. So when we do this, though, is it that you're saying I'm married to a flesh-eating cannibal, or that I work for a crazed killer? Probably not. I should hope. So we're going to talk about everyday psychopaths this evening, learn a bit more about what that means and how we can work with them, understand them better, and come up with some techniques of coping with being around them in a more effective and productive way.
I worked at Ogilvy for 25 years, and I did encounter quite a few people. I wouldn't call them psychopaths, but they do display psychopathic behaviour. And my aim tonight is to try and give you some practical things to do, particularly in this area. How can you move from this fight-flight thing, which is when psychopaths try and intimidate you, to a way of working with them, of dealing with them, without running out of the room or bursting into tears or having a punch-up. And that is my aim tonight. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a bit of psychobabble. So you don't need to believe this, you don't even need to understand it, but it's a way of thinking about the interactions that you will meet, where you're trying to be people are trying to intimidate you, people are trying to roll you over. And I don't know whether you remember, there's a book, a couple of books written in the 60s. One's called Games People Play, and the other is called I'm Okay, You're Okay. And they're written by a man called Eric Byrne, a very clever man, who he decided that he looked at interactions, hundreds and hundreds of interactions, his clients, the people he met, and he decided that you could look at all interactions in terms of where people were in their heads. And there were three places. You could either be in a parent mode, and our heads are stuffed with what we learn from our parents, our teachers, all the authority figures. Every time you say the words should or ought, you are in parent mode. Then there's the adult, which is this rational area, totally unemotional, objective, cool, factual, no bullshit, just the facts. And there's the child mode, which is where a lot of people are a lot of the time inside media companies, because the child is where creativity resides. We are at our most creative when we think and behave like children. Unfortunately, that state also comes with a lot of baggage that isn't particularly helpful. So when you have a psychopath, here's you, here's the psychopath. The psychopath, sorry, that's A, C. The psychopath will want this kind of interaction. They may say things like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea. You're always so negative. Why are you disagreeing with me? All this kind of stuff, or from the child. But what happens is this emotional reaction is straight from your child. This is how you learned as a child to respond to people that were threatening you, telling you what's what, because they were older and wiser and better than you were. Unfortunately, you are no longer children. So you do not have to be in that place. You don't have to fight, flight or freeze, because, they're just another human being. So the trick, if there is one, is to move here. In other words, you're not prepared to be intimidated. You're not prepared to respond emotionally. So when people try and say things like, you have no idea what you're talking about, you respond with something like, that's interesting. I wonder what you mean by that. I'm not really understanding where you're coming from. Or you have no idea. No idea. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you don't think there's anything going on in my head at all. Can you just amplify that a bit, because I'm losing you. And there are a series of techniques you can use that moves you from this place potentially to this place. And they are very, very simple and very, very powerful. And there are three of them. The first one is you do not respond emotionally. If they scream, if they shout, if they throw things at you, you do not react. And it's not for nothing that people say he's throwing his toys out of the pram. They're in child state. You do not react. If they shout at you, just treat them as though you say, oh, really? Can you, I couldn't quite hear that because you were speaking so loudly. Can you tell me, what it is you're trying to say? Because I couldn't catch it. So no emotion. Yeah, I thought this might. No emotion. Second is to paraphrase. There is nothing so powerful as when someone screams at you, you say, so, what I understood from that was that you don't like me. Is that right? It makes the person who's screaming instantly feel small, because they realise they're talking to an adult, and adults don't behave in that way.